He's on the screen, and he's going to be.
What a time warp. We're watching him hit a 3-wood and
unreal.
we're about to talk to him. What technology we have these days.
Thank you, Cisco. That's all we can say.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up?
Hey, can you see me and what have you?
I can see you, and I'm watching you stripe a 3-wood.
You look great. You sound great.
All right, perfect. I can do that. What's up, Max?
What's up, man? How's the quarantine going?
Dragon.
I give the same answer.
Yeah, dragon. But we're getting through it, I think. The end is in sight, which is great.
The end is near.
Yeah.
Are you playing Colonial?
Yeah, that's the plan, bud. Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
so
cool.
I'm excited. What about yourself?
Yeah, I got to do something, man. I can't wait.
Cool, dude. That's great.
Justin, I wanted to start. We were going through your stats headed into this U.S. Open, and they were ridiculous. But I feel like the thing that kind of followed you around throughout the week was how much prep went into Merion. Can you expand a little bit on your prep and how much time you not just spent on the golf course, but kind of trying to figure out this short but diabolical golf course?
Yeah. I guess, it was the first time I'd ever really single-mindedly prepared for a major championship. And, in my mind, I went up the week before. I think it was actually just myself and Phil who actually spent a lot of time on the grounds the week prior. And I think it was the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I spent 3 full days out at Merion, 8 hours per 9 holes, just really trying to map it out. And, it's a US Open, right? So I thought, okay, how do you shoot even par around this golf course? So I was trying to plot my way around, keep it in play here, keep it under the hole there. And, that's the way I was trying to strategize. I then went back to Florida because the whole reason for preparing really hard, a major championship for me is, you need to understand as many variables as possible. And the way the USGA set up different pin locations, the strategy changes greatly on a hole. So I was just trying to figure out all the ways of playing the golf course. I then went back to Florida to try to rest up and be mentally fresh because it's all very well being ready for a Thursday, but you have to be your best on a Sunday if you're, in order to win. So I felt like it was really important to have that weekend to freshen up rather than trying to learn the golf course Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of tired. So anyway, point being, I went back to Florida on the weekend and it obviously rained a lot there in Pennsylvania, and I flicked on the Golf Channel and I heard all the pundits saying, hey, it's going to be a bloodbath out there. These guys are going to go low. There could be a 62. It's going to be double digits under par. And I'm like, geez, that was a waste of time. I'm kind of trying to shoot even par. Hope I make the cut. But I kind of had no choice. My plan was to arrive back at Merion Tuesday afternoon, and I kind of just went with my game plan. And interestingly enough, you pick up little bits of information sometimes when you have that relaxed environment, and you always tend to kind of speak to a local caddy or the club pro or somebody, and they kind of give you some insights into the golf course. And one of the coolest insights I got during that preparation time was, a local caddy telling me that Merion is kind of like a good theatrical play. The first 6 holes are drama, the middle 6 are comedy, and then the final 6 are tragedy. So it sort of
I love that.
That's awesome.
It kind of pieced the golf course together for me in my head of like where you had to be patient, where you could maybe get on a little bit of a run. And that proved really true on the first round. I teed off on the 11th hole because it was a bit of a weird start there, but I teed off on number 11. So pretty much early in my round, I'd played all of the tragedy and then all of the drama holes, and I was 4 over through 11. And but I kind of realized I had some of those cool little comedy holes to play, some of the short par 4s, some of the holes where you could make birdie. So I stayed patient. It gave me a reason to stay patient. That soundbite. And, I birdied 3 of my last 6, I think, to shoot 1 over, and not too bad.
That's awesome. I played this. I was an amateur. This was my first ever PJ Tour event. I would say I only had 2 of those comedy holes in 36 holes. The rest was about tragedy. I didn't really have a lot of drama, but I didn't get a lot of the joy of the golf course. But I had a question for you. Like we said, we looked at your stats. They are remarkable. I didn't think that they were real. We had to call a buddy to make sure. You were second in strokes gained off the tee, second in approach, and second in strokes gained around the green. Did not think that was even possible. But I was curious, did this? Yeah, I think the only other person who's sniffed that is 05 Tiger Woods. I hear he's quite good. So I hope that you can you can hang your hat on that because that's remarkable. But I was curious if this was the best you had ever played, or at least at the time, or if it was just one of those weeks where it finally kind of came together for you. You had already had it, obviously an awesome career, but first major. I was wondering if the physical stuff just all clicked, or if it was more, the ball just wanted to go in the hole maybe a little bit more at the right times.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I look back at it, I mean, I think I was top 5 in the world. I think I was maybe the 5th player in the world at the time, and starting to try to believe that my career was trending in the right direction in terms of competing in major championships. I'd been through a nice run of play from 2010, where the tournaments that I had won were getting bigger and bigger. So I was beginning to sell myself the story that, hey, major championships the next step here. But I was also very aware that a lot of great players have gone through their career without ever winning a major. So I kind of felt that the physical side of my game was beginning to show up, and it was going to continue to show up. But by showing up, I was going to put myself in positions in majors, and I was going to win some and lose some, or I was prepared to win some and lose some. So I think the one thing that happened for me at Merion, even though I hadn't won a major championship, I was very aware that when the moment arose, pun not intended, but when the moment came, I didn't want the moment to be too great and feel like I was going to strangle it. So in my head, I was like, okay, you're playing really well. Your career's on the right track. You're going to create lots of chances to win majors. So when it's about to happen, just let it. So don't be scared to lose. Almost was my attitude, and I had a really process-driven, mindset that week, and I kept running it. And in my mind, like I could have walked off the 72nd hole, walked straight to the first tee, and kept going.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't have like that real hardcore finish line. I was just really very much in the process. But just going back and watching, like this was very much gut check time. I mean, I just saw I hit it into the bunker here at 15. I don't know how long we're going to talk. I mean, at 14, excuse me. I don't know how long we're going to talk, but I do remember thinking, come on, man, like I'm leading the US Open, a few holes to play, and now it just starts lashing with rain.
Yeah.
It was just another variable of like, really? Now you got to deal with this as well. And I've always been a guy, for some reason, that when it's raining, I never feel like I have control of the golf ball off the tee. Like I just feel like driver, wet. I don't know what it is. I just feel like it's not really a go-to. I always feel like I've got to hit 3-wood or an iron, or so that was just another thing to contend with. But lucky this rain that we're watching here kind of cleared it out pretty quick. It was only around for 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, and it comes in right when you're getting to the tragedy part of the round. Obviously, I thought 14 was one of the hardest holes. But I thought the 15th tee shot was where a lot could go wrong. If you pulled it, 5-10 yards left, it could hit that cart path and go out of bounds. So you're right to say that rain comes at not the best time if it hangs around.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, to be honest, 15th is probably my favorite hole on the golf course. I just love the way the road is right there, the way the out of bounds had no rough kind of in front of it. It just really felt quite intimidating. And I played that hole very conservatively. If we get to it, I hit iron off the tee there. Whereas if you look at Phil, he hit driver off the tee and gave himself. Really, that's where the tournament, I think, flipped. And if he keeps his wedge shot online, there's a bit of a backstop. Like because obviously he's going to spin it from whatever he had, 100, 110. If he kept it right of the pin, he's great. The fact he hit a little left of the pin, spun down to the front, made bogey, like for me, that's the golf tournament right there. And then this could have been the golf tournament right here for me. This is the jacket's on now. I've never really felt comfortable in a wetsuit, even though I'm grown up from the UK. I've gotten a little soft, Max, playing in the States.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna. You look good. I thought you were gonna feel the most comfortable. It's supposed to be me from Southern California who hates that thing.
Yeah, and you can see the way I was playing that. I was trying to hit like a shallow draw bunker shot. The sand was wet, and I kind of just got in there with a hosel. I mean, weird flight, right? It's come out with a ton of spin, but I was obviously coming in super shallow, trying to like flip my right hand and like almost hit a little draw bunker shot in there. But just caught literally shanked it, really.
I've got that shot.
Yeah, as you can see, it kind of squirts off to the right. Whoop. Wasn't quite what we were intending.
That's where the crowd goes nuts because the ball spun back and you hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, did you see that shot? It spun.
Yeah, look how cool that was.
Hey, Justin, I was reading some stuff about you prepping. I already talked about it. I read an interesting story. You texted your caddy a picture of a tunnel before the week to remind him that you guys needed to stay focused. Do you do that a lot? I mean, do you come up with tricks, mental tricks, things like that to keep you on a certain track, or if things are going well, to keep you engaged, before the rounds, before the weeks?
I think we always have little tricks of the trade and things that work for us, but it was weird. My wife had bought this photograph, and it was just happened to be in the house, and I walked past it one day, and I'd probably walked past it 1,000 times and never really resonated. And I've walked past it one day, like I'd been up to Merion. This was the weekend being back at home, and obviously I'm absorbing all of the information, and I just walked past it, and it just hit me as clear as day that basically good golf existed in the tunnel. The process was the tunnel, and everything outside of the tunnel was what if, or so what. So what if you're leading the US Open? So what if the crowds are loud? Like none of that. Like anytime I felt myself think about something, I said, so what? And just try to get kind of back into the tunnel. And then there were some shadows. It was like a colonnade, basically is what it was, like a tunnel of like a colonnade. And then there were like 4 shadows across in the tunnel. And that represented each step of my process for each golf shot. So yeah, it was one of those moments, and I tried to use it from that moment forevermore. And obviously these things tend to get stale after a while, right? So I think it was something that definitely inspired me that particular week, and maybe in the short time afterwards, but it's not something that I think you're always having to adapt to where you are currently.
That's awesome. Justin, when I think about this tournament, when I think about you winning this tournament, I think of one very specific thing that sticks out. It was your drive on 18. That was one of the trickiest tee shots I have ever personally played, and I was curious if the tee shot on 18 followed by the approach shot were your best ever, given the circumstances, back-to-back swings of your career.
Yeah, I would say yes, and I think what made them so is that I couldn't escape the situation at that point. You can kid yourself into process all you want. I'm one shot at a time, I'm moving to the next hole, and blah, blah, blah. You get onto the 72nd hole of the US Open, and you're faced with that shot at Marion. You know the situation. I could hear from the crowd behind me. I kind of knew exactly what Phil was doing. If he made birdie, the place lit up. Like, you knew what was going on. It was hard to avoid it. So all I remember from that tee shot was, again, I had this sort of, I don't know, courage just to let it go. I knew that if I steered it off that tee, or if I tried to over control the outcome, I was probably going to make a bad swing and miss that fairway. So I remember focusing on the first 2 feet of my backswing, and then like making sure the first 2 feet was smooth off the ball, and then just let it go. It was a bit of a sort of a hold up fade, which is probably the right shot off that tee. But I think also, Luke Donald had hit one way right as well, which made the second shot probably trickier because he was there getting a ruling. And it was a good 5 minutes really waiting to hit my second shot. And I remember the big flag behind the green, the big American flag, just sort of going gently right to left, but occasionally it would flick a little bit into me. So I was there kind of going back and forth, draw 4 iron, fade 3 iron, draw 4 iron, fade 3 iron. Like in my head, I'm probably making that decision 10 times. And then my caddy and I had hardly any dialogue. My eyes were closed. It came time to make the decision. I said, Fooch, what do you like? He said, 4 iron. So that's sort of, that's how that went down. And then obviously I hit beautiful 4 iron, and the crowd noise, I was like, whoa, where is that? And then I walked up, I was dying to get up to the green. I couldn't get up the hill quick enough, I was kind of peering over the crest and didn't see my golf ball. And I'm like, what? Where is it? And from that point, I thought, oh no, it's probably just in the thick rough. But fortunately, it was just in that first cut. And from that point on, it was like improvisation, to be honest with you. There was a shot on the previous day, 17th hole, 3rd round. I had like a similar shot, hit a good iron shot. It just crept off the right-hand side of the green. I was in that first collar, the collar, and the ball was just sitting down, and I thought I could get to it with a chip shot. And I thought I'd catch ball, but I didn't catch ball. I caught some grass between club face and ball, and it literally, because it was a short chip shot, it came out and went like 3 yards and left myself 20 feet. And that's all I could think of. It was exactly the same lie. It was like a tiny chip shot, so you couldn't put in any speed, and if you didn't get the perfect contact, the ball was going to go like nowhere. So that I was kind of working. I was having to improvise. I didn't want that to be the scenario, so I took my 3-wood out, put my hands behind the ball to add a bit more loft, and just popped it onto the green and let it trickle up to the hole. But it's funny, you know, you can practice all you want, you can prepare all you want, and you'll find yourself in a situation and you find yourself improvising to win your first major, you know. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It just shows you can't perfect this game. The lies and the situation, and there's always going to be something that you're going to have to adapt to, and that's the cool part about it.
That's very cool. Considering you hit 2 perfect golf shots and still had to go through the golf part of golf. Question: when you're nervous over a shot, like you were obviously on the 18th tee or the second shot in the 18th fairway, do you ever just tell yourself, "Hey, my swing's literally perfect, so the ball's probably going to go pretty straight"?
It's funny that no, you're like
that's got to help.
I know how many things can go wrong. That's the problem.
All right.
But you know, one thing I've learned in my career, and it took me a long time to learn it, was just because I'm nervous doesn't mean I'm going to hit a bad shot.
Yeah.
You know, it started to just occur to me how many good shots I've hit under pressure, how many putts I've made when my hands are shaking, and the minute you don't associate those feelings to failure, you know, it's amazing how things change. And you know, now I sort of relish that feeling. I relish the Ryder Cup type of nerves, and they don't come along every day. I don't know about you, Max, but once you've been on tour a few years, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they become quite routine, even if you're playing well and you're in the lead. And it's really only down the stretch that it really changes, where the outcome really presents itself. So, yeah, we don't play golf, I think, under a ton of pressure. You know, even if you win a golf tournament, I feel like it's maybe the last 20 shots of the 260 you hit that you really feel it.
Right. I've always said if you're really, really nervous, that means you're playing really, really well. So you should probably try to remind yourself of that.
No, that's a great point. You know, I went through a period in my career when I was missing cut after cut after cut. And, you know, I felt
Same here.
The pressure of making a cut on a Friday is almost harder than trying to win a golf tournament, because, you know, your game is not as reliable.
For sure. So when you're hitting that iron off 15, are you just trying to play to the sort of the corner on that left, so you could have a free swing off the tee to not worry about the out of bounds, I guess, through that fairway?
100%. With 3-iron, I know that if I pull it, I'm safe. You know, I might be in the rough, but you know, I'm not going to make 7 or 8 like Sergio.
Yeah.
Because you know, that became the story of that whole. I think Sergio made like an 8 day one, and you know, you can't unhear things sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Once you've heard it, that's it. It's in there. So anyway, I was always planning to play the golf hole that way, because I don't think I could quite carry the right side, maybe like Phil did. So for me, it was I always felt like I had to aim a little bit more at the fence or at the out of bounds. So the other option would have been a slide like left to right driver, but you double cross that, you're in big trouble. So yeah, 3-iron was because basically I could aim left and hit it.
Awesome.
That left me a 6-iron into the green though.
Yeah, to a tough pin, to a tough green.
Yeah, your driving was pretty remarkable. 75% of fairways hit that week at Merion, and the fairways were about 4 yards wide. So that'll work. Justin, last thing I want to ask before we let you go. How many wicker baskets did you bring home? Do you have these things in some sort of a display?
Can you sign a wicker basket?
It's not just the flag sticks. It's so unique. I mean, you got to check that stuff on a flight.
No, absolutely. No, the weird thing is I've got like an absolute radar on tour. If I see the Merion logo, or if I see, you know, the US Open Merion, I can see a spectator like from like 40 yards away if he's wearing that shirt. You know, personally, I can see that. But no, Marion, awesome. I mean, listen, those wickers are like gold dust. They don't give them away lightly. And they very generously gave myself one, and they gave my caddy Fooch one. And, you know, they're very rare, like the full, you know, especially the back 9 ones. They don't come around that quickly or that easily. So I have one, and it's pride of place. I have a little display area in my garage, which is kind of like my golf room, my practice room. Got like a little homage to the US Open in the corner. And, you know, the wicker is pride of place. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Justin. We're going to watch the rest of this. So you can watch it if you want. I mean, we're not going to kick you out of that. But we really appreciate it. That was so kind of you to join us and just chat through the golf course and the championship and really the strategy. I mean, the strategy talk, I feel like is just as good as really talking about how you played that week, because a lot of the stuff I feel like you had to do around this golf course was days and weeks before, you know, that first tee shot on Thursday.
Yeah, for sure. And just on that, I think for Merion to host a US Open, it was quite an awkward sight. We had to use the West Course for a lot of the facilities to get the guys. So all the player staging was always way out of the way. And then we were literally climbing through people's backyards to get to the first tee, and it was definitely a logistical challenge. But I fell in love with Merion because I went there the week before, and I saw it as the members see it. I turned up, I saw the locker rooms, which is super old school. I hit balls in the net up in the locker room. You then have lunch on the veranda out there, and it's literally on the first tee. I mean, people are chinking away, with their cups and their saucers and their water and stuff, and then literally goes dead silent when you're about to step up. And it's a weird type of pressure too, hitting a ball in front of just the members there. So, but that's kind of what I fell in love with Merion, and I think the guys that didn't see it like the members see it found it hard to relate to it, in a US Open as well because of the staging. So that was just another key factor, I thought, in terms of why I was able to kind of get so much into the week.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, and that was good. That's a good shot right there. You know what? In control of your irons, it seems to be the thing here. Distance control.
Hey, listen, boys, it's been lovely to walk down memory lane. I should probably do it more often. I mean, I haven't watched this back, I don't think, more than once. So this is it's a treat for me as well.
Good. Well, thanks for being on, Justin. This is great. I'm looking forward to watching you clutch up down the stretch. This is awesome to hear all your thoughts, and I'm learning just listening to you. So I appreciate that.
All right, Max. Well, I'll catch you on tour soon. We'll have a practice round, bud.
All right, sounds good.
Cool.
See you, buddy.